The Smith Wesson CSX, let's check it out. Smith & Wesson has just introduced their single-action, hammer-fired, small micro-compact, and yet it has a double-stack magazine. This is the first in its class, guys. There's a lot of 1911 style pistols out there that are micro, but they're all single-stack, and this is a 10+1 or up to 12+1 magazine capacity. It's an all-aluminum frame, but it has an polymer palm swells at the back that has a lot of texturing. This is a very small little option, especially for those guys who really like the hammer fired with the frame safety. And I'm a big fan of that as well, just because I love the 1911. There's some really cool innovative features on this pistol. There's a couple of things that I'm not really fond of. And so we're gonna take a look, take it down to the range, and we're gonna do a full review. Now, this video is brought to you by GetZone.com, and it is one of the most friendly Second Amendment video platforms for gun channels out there. And we also appreciate Smith & Wesson for sending the CSX for this review. The Smith & Wesson CSX. CS stands for Chief Special, the X for the extended magazine capacity. This is a single-action hammer-fired pistol, very similar in design to the 1911, no grip safety. Definitely shrunken down a lot, and there are a lot of options out there on the market in that single action hammer fired pistol category. But the big coup with this one is that it has 10+1 in the magazine. Check the chamber, make sure it's unloaded, but it also has a 12-round magazine. And honestly, there is very little difference in the length of the magazine. And a lot of times when you have those extended magazines or additional rounds, the base pad kind of hangs down. This one, honestly, this fits very naturally, and I really like the 12-rounder. It gives you a full grip on the pistol. Now, my hands are medium sized, so if you have large hands, it's probably going to be a little bit short. But with the 10-rounder, it just barely hangs off, and I do get part of my pinky on there. And so really, even the 10-rounder is good, but the 12-rounder seems to give you just a little more of that finger extension. Now, this is also an aluminum frame, which most of your single-stack hammer-fired micro 9s have aluminum frames. But it does have this polymer grip swell. This is very similar to your Shield M&P Plus. Same kind of texturing, and here's the M&P. This is, again, a new striker fire option with 10 rounds or 12 rounds as well. Now, the magazines are not compatible, and these are a little bit different, but they're very well made, and Smith & Wesson does a great job on their magazines. We have the Armor Night finish on the slide, which is very well done. I really like the M&P series with that Armor Night finish. It's a black nitride, but it really holds up well, has a lot of lubricity. The barrel is also that Armor Night finish. And then it's a stainless steel finish underneath, and the Armor Night finish actually penetrates the metal. So even if you have some shiny spots on here after time, you're still going to have really great corrosion resistance. And then, of course, with the aluminum doesn't rust as well. So this, to me, and all of the Smith & Wesson pistols are very corrosion resistant. Now, you see this beaver tail that comes up. It's very nice. It's aluminum, obviously. And so when you put this in your hand, it gives you that beaver tail effect. Some people with larger hands have had a little bit of slide bite or just a rub more than anything else. But this is a really small pistol to carry. Now, again, single action, hammer fired, and that means that when you pull the trigger, there's no movement of the hammer. And so you load a round in, or magazine, then you rack the slide, it'll enter a fresh round, and then every time you fire, the slide will come back into the rear position, ready to fire again. Again, very similar to your 1911. The slide serrations are straight. They're not the scale kind of pattern with the M&Ps, and we have a little bit of a cocking shelf here at the back. And with these small slides, that really is advantageous. And then we have some cocking serrations here at the front. And these are full cocking serrations. Here, if you'll notice on the M&P Plus, again, it's more of those kind of a fish scale type pattern. And then here at the front, there's just some small patterns here. So you don't really get, you can do press checks, but you don't really get that full slide serration that you do get on the CSX. As far as size goes, these are both about the same capacity, and yet the Shield Plus is a little bit larger. Probably a little bit thinner because of the controls on the CSX, but even in the grip, I mean, I've got 12 rounds in the CSX, and then I've got 10 rounds in the Plus. Now, one of the things about the CSX is it also has a trigger safety, and to be honest with you, it's the first time I've seen one on a single action pistol. But it does have a little small blade right here. Now, one of the things about a 1911 style pistol is that the trigger comes just back. This one does have a little bit of angling that goes on, but it is pretty much flat face. Now, I'm going to show you the trigger because the trigger is one of the things that is probably a point of contention with a lot of people, and so we're just going to go ahead and show it right now. We have that little blade, and that's the safety. The action itself, there's very little movement. I could almost say there's no take up, but it's a little bit of take up right there, and then a decent break. Now, when we go ahead and rack the slide for reset, there's something that pushes the trigger. It's not a reset, but it just kind of pushes the trigger, and I believe that is where the firing pin safety is engaging. And then there's the reset, and it's back on it. One of the problems that a lot of people have had, and including actually myself, I've done it a couple of times, is I like to ride close to the reset. What happens is I'll do this, and I'll feel that little bit of a push, and then I'll go to hit it, and it won't fire. If I fully release it, it'll fire. It's a very little movement. So it's mainly going ahead and letting it ride on out to hear the click. And then you pull the trigger. And that's probably one of the things that there are some complaints about this trigger. Okay, now, with that being said, honestly, as far as shooting this handgun, that low bore axis, the grip of the pistol, it shoots beautifully. I mean, I really enjoyed shooting this gun. That's one problem that I've been having, is the reset doesn't come out all the way. And we had a number of times where that was happening. So you've got to release that trigger because the reset is not as close as you think. Still a great shooting little gun. So honestly, I don't think that's a problem with 99% of the people, because most people just take this out and shoot it. And so you're not going to get that real close reset that you think, but even then, again guys, okay, that's where it pushed it out. There's the reset, I feel the reset, I hear the reset, and then I click. So once you start getting used to it, it doesn't take long to bypass that reset and not even think about it. Now let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 4 pounds, 9.7 ounces. 4 pounds, 5.7 ounces. Around the 4.5 pound range. Now this does have frame safeties, and they are ambidextrous. And you'll notice that the frame safety will engage with the hammer in the rear position. But even with the safety engaged, I can bring the slide back. And so that's something that most of your single action hammer fired pistols will not do, unless they're a decocker. Also, you have a nice minimal slide release right here, or slide stop, and it's also ambidextrous. You have a magazine release right here. It's really easy to get to, and it jettisons the mags out, or drop free. You can switch the mag release to the other side, but it's included with the box. So you take this one out and they have it, and we'll take a look at some of the accessories in a minute. But again, even with the safety deployed, you can rack that slide. And the great thing about that is if you have one in the chamber, you can just rack your slide with your safety engaged, and it just gives you a little more safety factor. And when it comes to the safety, it's really minimal, it's thin, and yet it's good and tactile. Might like a little more safety right there, but you can feel it, bring it down, and you're ready to fire. Comes with 3-dot sights that are white, and it does have a cocking shelf right here for one-handed reloads. I like that on a self-defense pistol, and these are both dovetailed in. It does have serrations along the top of the slide to cut down on glare. Of course, like most of your Micro 9s, it does not have any kind of barrel bushing system, and it's really easy to disassemble. The barrel is 3.1 inches in length, and it is stainless steel, and again, it has the Armor Knight finish on it. The pistol itself is only 6 inches in length, it's 4.6 inches in height, and it's 1.12 inches where the controls come, really more toward the grip. The slide itself is really thin and somewhat squared off. Still, it's a little bit smaller than the M&P Shield Plus. The bore axis, as you can see right here, is definitely lower. Now, it does come with the larger back strap already attached, but it does have a very minimal small back strap. It comes with a tool to be able to remove that back strap. We're going to go ahead and remove our magazine, check to make sure the gun's unloaded. Take this little tool and you just push it. There's a detent in there, and once you feel that click, you can pull the grip right off like this. There's a little lip that fits up in the top of the grip, and then we take this little small grip and you can place it in here, and then all you need to do is just to snap it into place, just like that. Now you'll notice that there are some cutouts here still for the original grip. Because of the front strap and the back strap, those are the two areas that you grip, and they keep your hand firmly onto the pistol. On the side, it's not quite as important, unless there's a grip swell. Now to me, because it has this cutout, it almost looks like there's something that should be there. And it has that extra mag release for left-handed shooters. Now with the 12-round magazine, you have this little spacer, and this just keeps it flush to the frame, and also to take this off, you could over-insert your magazine. And so this really needs to be on there. I really would like to have seen this attached to this base plate, but it does fit that way. There are a lot of guns that come like that. But you can see, I mean, it just has a nice grip to it, and it doesn't look like there's an appendage on the bottom of the gun. Now here is the Shield M&P Plus magazine, and while it fits up in there, it does not lock onto the magazine release. In fact, the CSX magazines won't even go into the Shield Plus. Now, Colt first introduced the Mustang Pocket Light and the Mustang 2. It's been 30 years ago, and this is one of the first. I bought this when they first came out. I actually gave it to my wife for concealed carry, but now she carries actually this Shield Plus. And this is just a small little 6-round magazine capacity. I'm going to check to make sure the gun's unloaded. While this is a 1911 design, it doesn't have the grip safety, and honestly, it's not a true 1911. Here we have the Kimber, and this is their Micro 9, based again on the 1911 controls, and it's small, but it's not as small as the original Mustang. And this is in stainless steel, and then it has the aluminum alloy frame. With the Kimber, this is also a stainless steel with an aluminum alloy frame. Springfield Armory also makes one, but so does the SIG P938. I don't have one of those. Those are excellent firearms. But again, guys, those are limited to 6, 7 rounds. And so it's a really small gun, but yet we have here a 10 to 12 round magazine capacity. And to be honest with you, it's not much larger, if any, on the CSX. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, but a lot of that has to do with the general design. But it gives you a lot of mag capacity, and that is a big deal. Here we have the Springfield Armory Ronin EMP. This is in 9mm, and guys, it carries 10 rounds. But a much larger pistol, and yet this is the smallest true 1911 out on the market. So you can see I have 12 rounds in the CSX, and it's quite a bit of a difference. And so honestly, as far as concealability, you're better to go with the CSX. If you're like me and you just love 1911s, again, this is the smallest one on the market, and man, it's sweet. I mean, there's no doubt. Weight on the Smith & Wesson CSX, 19.4 ounces. According to the Smith & Wesson website, it weighs 19.5 ounces. So that is really close. And that is with the 10-round magazine. Weight of the M&P Shield Plus, 20.2 ounces. So it does weigh almost an ounce difference. We really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring our ammo, all made in the USA. One of the largest suppliers of ammunition in the country. And also we want to thank Lula Loaders with this Mag Lula. Really makes loading easy. Taking the CSX down to the range. First thing I noticed, and this is a video of me shooting it for the first time. Shot right through the whole entire magazine. And honestly, typically I like to shoot to reset. But obviously with that little faux reset when you first fill it, it definitely can trick you if you're used to riding really close to the reset. For me, I shoot so many different guns that I'm able to get through that, but it did catch me a couple of times. But the first time that it happened was with Sarah Mack. She was shooting a few rounds and that she didn't quite let out the reset, and so she thought something was wrong with it. And we quickly realized that, you know, that reset was fake. I mean, it kind of makes you think it, and then you have the reset on out. Here's the thing, guys, if you're going to shoot something like this, or if you're going to carry something like this, you need to be very accustomed to the way the pistol shoots. And so putting, 200 or 300 rounds through any pistol you're going to carry is a minimum for me. But one of the big things that I love about this handgun, particularly for the Micro 9s, is the bore axis is super low. The slide is small coming back, and man, it shoots flat. And I really love the way it shoots. It just nestles down in your hand. And this small little beaver tail helps from slide bite, but I have heard reports of guys with larger hands having a little bit of rub on the back of their hand. So that's something you want to just watch for. But really the controls, again, they're very similar to the 1911. There's no grip safety, but it's just a very low pointing, very natural pointing gun. And the grip is not tiny. And a lot of times when you have these Micro 9s, the grips can be really thin. With this, it gives you just enough to where you feel like you've got a good solid grip on the pistol, and yet it's not too wide for concealed carry. I will be carrying this one for concealed carry because I do like to carry hammer-fired single action pistols at times with that little frame safety. And one thing about those frame safeties is you always need to train to engage that frame safety if you have it. And carrying this cocked and locked would be a great way to do it. I like one in the chamber, I like my mag full, and it gives me up to 13 plus 1 in the magazine. Guys, that's only 2 less than the Glock 19, and yet it's about a third of the size. So, this to me is a great little concealed carry option, and you don't feel like, you're really low on round count. But make sure you train enough that you know that reset is coming on the second click. I don't really like that. I wish that wasn't the case because I really like to ride reset. But if you know that going in, it really helps. One of the things I like to do is to shoot with one hand when I'm doing any review or I'm just out practicing, because typically that's how you're going to end up shooting, is one hand. And if you're not used to it, you definitely need to get accustomed to it. It's a whole different recoil feel. You need to be accustomed to getting that hand, bring it in close. You don't want your hand out here while you're shooting wildly. But in a self-defense situation, really, one-handed is probable. In fact, 80% of most gunshot wounds are in the legs and the hand and the arms. So, you could lose your functionality with one of your hands. Also, it has that cocking shelf on the back so you can do manual reloads off your belt, off a table, off your boot. I really like that for a self-defense pistol, and I highly recommend that you try shooting it, not only with your right hand or your dominant hand, but also your weak hand. Now for disassembly, let's go ahead and drop our magazine, check to make sure the gun is unloaded. Right here is your slide stop. And you'll notice that there is a small little pin right here, and you're going to need a punch to drive this through. But first you need to bring back your slide in this small little cutout. You want to go just about right here. It's only about 1/4 of an inch. And then come back on the other side and just push that pin through. And so your slide release on the left side will come out. Next, just push your slide forward. We have our recoil spring and guide rod. We have our barrel, again 3.1 inch stainless steel barrel. And we have our slide. Guys, that Armonite finish is just beautiful on these handguns. Now here you have extended slide rails, which gives more stability to the firearm. Most of your small polymer frame pistols have really short little steel slide rails. So this is going to give you just a little bit of added frame to slide fit, and it really makes a difference. It's a very smooth shooting gun. Here with the inside of the Smith, I mean, it's just beautiful. And the finish, everything about this gun is very well done. And guys, that's all you need to do to field strip. For reassembly, just drop in your barrel, recoil spring and guide rod, give it a little bit of tension. We're going to bring this back over our slide. And again, you want to get that notch just right there so your slide release will fit right in. So we drop it through, snap it into place, just like that. Then pull back on the slide, make sure everything's locked up correctly. And test for function, and we're good. Now when it comes to price, manufacturer suggested retail is $609. Of course, market price at your local gun shop will typically be less. It does cost a little more to produce your single action hammer fired pistols, even more for your double action hammer fired pistols. There's some fitting that goes on, and it's just not quite as cheap as the polymer frame striker fire pistols. With that being said, there's a lot of quality with the aluminum frame, and I love that they've married that with the polymer back strap and front strap. It gives you some nice texturing, and yet you have a little bit of heft and some quality with that aluminum. I like that it's fully ambidextrous. The Armonite finish is beautiful. It's a very well-made, beautiful handgun. I like the front and rear cocking serrations. I like the cocking shelf here toward the back as well. The sights are really nice. I like that cocking shelf on here. For a concealed carry piece, though, I would like to have night sights, and I'm sure those will be available, but the 3-dot sights on this are really well done. Of course, you don't have a Picatinny rail, which honestly on something like this I don't really like. It just adds more bulk to the pistol, and it's not optics cut, at least so far. Now when it comes to the cons, of course the trigger is a point of contention. It has a little bit of that false reset that can fool you at first, and then it comes in, but still the reset is fairly short, and we're talking about 4.5 pound trigger pull, so it has an acceptable trigger. It's just that reset is a little tricky. But guys, honestly, you just need to take that out and shoot this gun. And whatever gun you have, you need to know the reset. Most of us have different style guns, different type guns, and so it's good to know your pistol. And that's one of the things that's no different with the CSX. I like the beaver tail. It really nestles. It's a very flat shooting gun as well, which are more pros. Another con is the safety is a little thin. It's almost like sheet metal. It seems to work really well. And so it's fine. We'll see if there's any issues later on down the road, but it's very minimal to the frame, and I like that. The slide stop is also very minimal, even being ambidextrous. I mean, it is a really thin, very smooth profile. With the extended slide rails, you're going to get smoother action to it, and I think that has a lot to do with how smooth and how flat shooting it is. This is an excellent option for those single action hammer fired pistols. To me, it blows everything else out of the market, very similar to what the SIG P365 did. A lot of guys like the hammer fired. They like to have the frame safety on here, and this takes care of it, and yet you've got that higher round capacity. So guys, if you're not really all that excited about carrying a polymer frame pistol without any kind of frame safety, this makes an excellent option. And there are a lot of guys that feel that way. Personally, I'm so used to shooting them, I just make sure I keep my finger out of the trigger. But this does give you added safety features. And this makes an excellent single action hammer-fired pistol, and yet again it gives you that extra round capacity, which gives you a lot more confidence when you're carrying this. And it is a very small little handgun. This to me is a great little hammer-fired single action pistol with high round capacity that's going to be a comfort on your hip. And again, we appreciate GetZone.com for putting all this together, and also to Smith & Wesson for sending the CSX for this test and evaluation. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Oh, just hush.
I'm just trying to help. Hold on. This is what happens.
I got Robbie over there. Drop me crazy. Freaking heck. We really appreciate Fiocchi. Nah, stuck in you. Very low muzzle flip. Really? These birds love to eat my cat's food. Again, very similar to your... And again, we really appreciate Springfield Armory. And this is a single action, it's a single action what? Hammer fired. And so this, I don't want to say that, that's just a, I know I do want to say it, but I'm not going to say it. And especially if, of course it's a great little gun. I say it's great because I like everything.